My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Talking Tennis. It's day 4 of the Australian Open, the beginning of round 2, and we have a nice panel here for everybody. And we are going to start off real quick with an interview with Lebanese sports journalist Ryan Musalem, and I hope I said that correctly. Appreciate you coming on because we have a big moment that has happened for Lebanese sports and in tennis in general, as Hady Habib is the first tennis player for Lebanon to win a singles match at a Grand Slam. Before we get into that, Ryan, I want to know a little bit about you. If you give a little introduction into your world of sports journalism.
Yes. Hello, Anthony. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be with you on the show today, and thank you for having me. So basically, I've been a sports journalist for almost 10 to 12 years. I've worked in different media outlets, whether in Lebanon or outside Lebanon. I used to be a sports TV anchor on a Lebanese TV channel called LBCI, a reporter, a field reporter, segment producer, and as well tennis commentator. I used to commentate on Lebanese tennis tournaments. And then I've worked for some years also abroad. I moved to the International Sports Press Association in Italy, and I worked 4 years at the AFP news agency, or Agence France Presse, which is also one of the biggest news agencies in the world in the sports Arabic department. And during my whole career, I've covered a lot of sports events in the world, including the FIFA World Cup, the Summer Olympic Games, and the Winter Olympic Games, and different sports events as well. And that's it in short about me, let's say. And I'm obviously a big tennis fan, and I watch tennis since I was a little kid.
Well, it's so great to have you on and to be a part of this, especially with Habib playing tonight. Definitely in the United States, he'll be playing at 9:50 against Hugo Humbert. So I want to know from you, Ryan, because he's the first tennis player for Lebanon to win a singles Grand Slam, what does this not only mean for Hady, but also just for Lebanon as well?
Yeah, exactly. I just like to add one more info. It's in the Open era, because we've had a couple of wins before that. But yeah, in the Open era, he's the first ever Lebanese to play in the singles and obviously to win a game. Look, it means a lot to Lebanon, especially with the country who's been going through a lot of hardships, especially for the past 5 years. When the revolution started, and then COVID, and then the port explosion, the economic crisis, and lately the war, which lasted for 2 months, and it ended also 2 months ago almost. So whenever we have any good news, from any Lebanese player or a Lebanese group representing Lebanon outside the country, it means a lot to the Lebanese. So after Hady's qualification, and obviously after his first win, a couple of days ago, literally everyone in the country, they rallied behind him. You would see everyone on social media talking about Hady, even people who are not, let's say, really maybe involved in tennis or who watch tennis, but everyone were happy because he kind of raised the Lebanese flag outside, and especially in one of the Grand Slams tournament, which is the biggest stage of tennis, obviously worldwide. So yeah, it means a lot to a country who has been going through a lot, and we wait for positive news whenever we can hear them.
What is the, biggest takeaway from the match that you saw with Hady, and what he can do moving forward into this next round against Hugo Humbert?
Look, obviously Hady going into the tournament, especially the first round, he wasn't the favorite. He was playing a top 100 player, and it was his first win ever in his career against a top 100 player. And obviously now going into this game, he's gonna face a top 20 player. Hugo Humbert he's world number 14. He has won like 6 ATP Tour titles. Well, obviously we know that Hady only has like one challenger title. So, but to be honest, ever since I watched Hady last year at the Olympic Games when he played versus Carlos Alcaraz in the first round, obviously we all know who's Carlos Alcaraz. He's the next big thing in tennis. He's already won 4 slams. He's been world number 1. I felt that like he's gonna improve, and he proved it, and he qualified to a Grand Slam tournament against Alcaraz. He managed to get some break points. He wasn't afraid. Like he has a good serve. His forehand is good. Obviously, plenty of things to improve. But ever since I watched him during that game, I knew that he's gonna improve a lot, and this is what he's done. Obviously, for during the past like few months since summer 2024, and I believe, to be honest, he can maybe surprise Hugo Humbert. We know that he's not the favorite, but I'm hopeful that he's gonna play like a good game. He's gonna give his all. And to be honest, like the Lebanese fans in Melbourne, the Lebanese diaspora, the Lebanese Australians, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a huge Lebanese diaspora in Australia, like because they went back during like the days the civil war, and before that they flew to Australia. We have like maybe around 1 million, let's say, Lebanese in all of Australia. So there's always Lebanese there supporting everyone who goes, whether our national teams or now in this case Hady. So I believe the crowd also will be supporting him, and he knows that he should obviously improve lots of things from his first game to be able to, let's say, maybe shock Hugo Humbert if he wants to win. But other than that, I believe he's gonna give his all, and he's gonna rely obviously a lot on his serve game because he has like a huge serve. He's a big server, and we hope that he's gonna do well. And even if he loses, I believe he's gonna build on like his participation in the Australian Open to hopefully maybe keep on playing and Grand Slams the upcoming year, and maybe a lot of also ATP tournaments.
Now, before I go to the rest of the panel here, we got Carson, Bruno, Rachel as well. One last question for me is, with what Hady has done, do you see maybe more of an emphasis of players coming from Lebanon to start getting into more and more of tennis?
Yes. To be honest, I believe that Hady's participation in the Australian Open is gonna open the door to lots of Lebanese players. To be honest with you, like the tennis is not like kind of a big sports in Lebanon. And Lebanon basketball is, let's say, the number 1 sport and where we achieved the most as the national team. But there's a lot of people who watch tennis. But in terms of achievement, and especially that now we just mentioned that he's the first player in the Open era to play in the Grand Slam, so that says a lot. But I believe his participation will gonna inspire a lot of Lebanese player, and especially the youth, the children. And I hopefully, obviously, the tennis federation, the Lebanese Tennis Federation, to invest more. Especially now we have kind of like some positive news in the country with new president and new PM, and hopefully with the new government and the new Ministry of Sport and the Minister of Sport, we hope that like they're gonna be improving, let's say, all the sports in Lebanon, and hopefully tennis is one of them.
I'm going to throw it to the rest of the panel. We'll start off with Carson. We'll go in order here because we're all lined up here. So we'll go Carson, Bruno, Rachel. Carson, what do you got for Ann?
I was just wondering, like, this is really, you could call it a cultural moment, especially for tennis in Lebanon. And I'm just wondering, especially as there have been so many changes in the country lately, do you think that there could be more of an emphasis on tennis now that there has been success, and more of an investment in more young talent out of this country?
Yeah, I do believe so. Obviously, just as I mentioned that Hady's achievements during the past like couple of weeks is gonna inspire a lot of Lebanese players here. And look, to be honest, we know that tennis as an individual sport, it needs kind of more individual investment with kids, as like when they are still young from their parents. Let's say it's a bit more of an investment that compared to football or basketball. But I believe we have a lot of potential if we give them the chances, we give them like all the facilities, and we give them the opportunity to improve and to travel abroad to participate in more tournaments, because this is one of the things that we miss in a lot of individual sports in Lebanon, as well as, to be honest, some team sports, is that like the experience that they need to get and to travel abroad more to participate in competitions and tournaments that they are a bit like of a higher level than the ones that they are here. But I believe that Hady's achievement, as long as he continued during this year, and I believe also other than Hady, we have also Benjamin Hassan, who participated also in the Olympics as a Lebanese last year in Paris 2024. So like I believe like if the players keep on improving and they are always like, participating in these tournaments and achieving, they're gonna be inspiring a lot of children and youth, and they're gonna be obviously attracting sponsors, and mainly also from Lebanon, and they're gonna be pushing more our ministry to invest in them.
Guess it's my turn, yeah?
Yeah, Bruno, go ahead.
Hi, Ryan. I wanted to ask you about the diaspora. You've obviously mentioned there that there's a lot of Lebanese people in Australia and in other parts of the world. The fact that you've got a player in Hady Habib who is a part of a diaspora in the United States in this sense, Benjamin Hassan, who you've mentioned there from Germany, also someone who's representing Lebanon. Do you think that there will be a sort of knock-on effect from these tennis players performing well in terms of local federations in every sport, reaching out to the diaspora in different countries, trying to recruit talented Lebanese people who maybe would be representing other countries? Do you know if there's going to be any sort of effort from Lebanon in different sports, seeing that it's been so successful in tennis, to try and sort of bring home those talents?
Yeah, look, obviously, to be honest, given that basketball is kind of like the top sports in our country, I know that every time, like the Lebanese Basketball Federation, they keep on looking for talents abroad, especially that I've mentioned, and you just like mentioned as well, that like the Lebanese diaspora and the world is too big. I mean, in Lebanon, we are around like 5-6 million, I don't know, maybe 7 million, while abroad, like there are more Lebanese than in Lebanon, due to like to our past, during the civil war, and even back in the days when a lot of Lebanese they left the country. So that's why our diaspora is huge in Australia and Brazil, Argentina, America, the United States, Canada, also in Europe. So yeah, they will be looking for more talents, and even if it didn't happen a lot before in different sports, but now with Hady's achievement, I believe we'll be looking for more tennis players exactly abroad, and maybe to recruit, to have them, to invest in them, and to push them maybe to come back to Lebanon and represent the country, even obviously if they have like Lebanese roots. I believe this is gonna be happening much more during the next couple of years.
We'll go to Rachel.
Ryan, sort of following on from Carson's question, how likely will it be to have sort of a next up-and-coming Lebanese player?
Excuse me, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so I was just wondering, how do you think it will be likely to have, some next up-and-coming Lebanese players?
Look, to be honest, now I believe the focus is mostly on Hady and Benjamin, obviously. Like they kind of had of a breakthrough because they were the first Lebanese also to play in the Olympic Games in tennis competition, whether singles or doubles. So now the focus is on Hady. No, there's not too much like kind of let's say too visible Lebanese tennis players who might do something in the next couple of years. I believe Hady is gonna be the one on the spotlight. But as well as like Hady's achievement, just like we said, he's gonna be inspiring a lot of youth. I hope that he also is gonna inspire a lot of the current Lebanese players who are playing like in the Davis Cup or any other tournament to improve more, to improve in the ranking, to have the chance to play the qualification of any Grand Slam, and I don't know, maybe they can follow Hady's steps and also be there one day.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today on Talking Tennis. Let everyone know, where to follow you, what you got working coming up next.
Yeah, to be honest, just as I've mentioned, I've been working in sports journalism for the past 12 years, but I switched a bit to sports event management in the last year and a half. And lately, I was in the ATP Next Gen in Jeddah. So I was part of the organizing committee. I was like one of the organizers in the ATP Next Gen, and I've watched a lot of the players who are now like competing. One of them is obviously Joao Fonseca, who shocked Andrei Rublev in the first round of the Australian Open. So Joao Fonseca was the champion of the ATP Next Gen, and to be honest, I've watched almost all of his games in Jeddah, and I wasn't surprised that he kind of knocked out Andrei Rublev. This guy is a huge potential. I believe he's gonna be like one of the next big thing in tennis. He's still just 18 years old. So I just wanted to mention that because you've asked me what's next. So I'm telling you that I was just working on the ATP Next Gen in Jeddah. So up next for me, I'm still like freelancing in journalism, and I'm gonna be working on different sports events between Lebanon and Saudi Arabia. So we'll see what's next.
All right, Rayanne, we thank you so much for being a part of Talking Tennis, like I mentioned before. And you take care of yourself, and we'll definitely have you on again to talk more about Hady Habib as well. And it's great to have you on a day that, not only has he made history, but we're getting to see him go into round 2 of the tournament. So appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you, guys. I'm gonna wish Hady all the luck to today, and I don't know. I hope that he shocks Hugo Humbert and he got like a top 20 win in his career, which is gonna be huge, obviously, for Lebanese tennis. Thank you guys so much, and have a good day or night, wherever you are.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Carson, Bruno, Rachel, we talked about it. Start of round 2 begins shortly. And, what are some, we'll go around. I did this the last time when we did the kind of launch to the Australian Open. But what are the must-watch matches for you for this second round, actually day 1 or day 4 of the Australian Open? What matches are you looking forward to today? We'll go Rachel first. Go ahead, Rachel.
Today, I mean, as a Brit, I think Jack Draper's Kokkinakis will be a big match. I'm hoping to see Jack Draper through to round 3, but it's going to be tough against a home crowd, I think.
Yeah, Jack had a great end to the 2024 season in the U.S. Open. Very memorable. And to have him go up in this match coming up, if he can take care of the Australian, right, like that's going to be big. They're going to be all behind Kokkinakis here. And if he can pull this off, he's ranked 15. Next up would be a matchup with either Sebastian Korda or Vucek. We'll see what happens there. How about on the women's side for you, Rachel? What are you looking forward to on there?
I'm going to have to go with the Brits. Jodie Burrage, Coco Gauff, and similarly Donna Vekic, Harriet Dart are going to be, it's the first time in like 20-something years, I think, that there's been however many Brits into round 2. So it's going to be interesting for sure. I think Jodie and Harriet are going to struggle, but if they play their best tennis, I think they might be able to pull through.
Coco Gauff is ranked 3rd. What is Burge going to need to do, in your eyes, to kind of pull off this upset?
I think it's going to have to play big tennis. She's going to essentially go big or go home. She can't afford to play defensive tennis because Gauff is just going to punish.
Bruno, how about for you? We'll go we'll start with the women's side, and then we'll go to the men's side. What matches are you looking forward to today?
Well, like Rachel, I'm going to fly the flag for my country. So I'm going to fly the flag for Spain. I want to see Badosa, obviously, and I want to see Jessica Bolfas up against Sabalenka. That'll be a nice challenge for her. Obviously, I'm not expecting her to get past Sabalenka, but it'll be a nice experience for her. To take her on like she did in Wimbledon Centre Court Experience. She'll get that at the Rod Laver Arena against Sabalenka. So that'll be another step in her process, which will be interesting to see. From a neutral point of view, Muchova against Osaka is obviously I think, kind of the standout game in the women's side.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that match to me is one to really look out for. You have Muchova, who's ranked 20, Naomi Osaka trying to get back into the rankings. She beat Caroline Garcia in 3 sets. So that's going to be a nice little matchup. Hopefully we get somewhat of a 3-setter there as well. How about on the men's side for you?
Men's side again, I'm going to have to go to my country and say Carlos Alcaraz against Nishioka. Let's see how he fares there. he had a minor blip in his first round game, which is, I think, the only cause for concern of Alcaraz is that he sometimes sort of drifts out of games and out of matches, I should say, and it gets a little bit more complicated than it should be. But there'll be another, expect a straight sets win against Nishioka, hardworking defensive player, but he shouldn't have enough to really cause too many problems for Alcaraz. But I want to see where he is right now.
And I also got to go to someone else from Spain, David Fokina against Felix Auger-Aliassime. Like those two guys going up. Azim is 29th in the rankings. What do you think of these two going into this match? Can Fokina pull off a win here?
Well, Davidovich last season it wasn't the season to remember for him. A big dip for a player who's got so much quality, so much talent. He's got absolutely everything, but his head lets him down. He's the first one to admit, he's a little bit wild and maybe not completely focused on tennis sometimes. And Felix, well, he's sort of, his stock is starting to rise a little bit again, isn't it? Again, after a sort of complicated couple of years, he's looking a little bit more reliable. And Davidovich isn't the most reliable player in the world, but and he got through in the first round, courtesy of a retirement to Shang. So again, it's a bit of a sort of question mark to see how Davidovich really is right now after the pre-season. But I'd expect Felix Auger-Aliassime to get through that one.
Before we go to Carson next, one more thing for you, Bruno. In the chat, they want to know your thoughts on Fonseca, obviously coming off of that upset of Andrei Rublev in the first round.
Well, I think most of us would probably agree that maybe we were expecting Fonseca to beat Rublev. Also, again, talking about given the moment in which both players were heading into the game, the fact that he did it so convincingly doesn't take away from the fact that we were expecting it. Now it's a question of how do you deal with all this hype, which can be a bit tedious. It can be a bit sort of too much exposure for him. But I think what we saw today is clearly a player who, if he doesn't get lost along the way, and I don't think he will do, he will be competing up there for a very long time with the likes of Sinner, with the like of Alcaraz. I think the matchup today was brilliant for him, though. I mean, he's playing against Rublev, who's not somebody who defends too well, and he's a little bit one-dimensional. And if it's João Fonseca doing what Rublev does best, multiplied by 2, then the writing was kind of on the wall for Rublev. But yeah, a lot of hype, and it's good for tennis. Fresh faces, a different country, different region, and it'll be interesting to see how far he can go in the tournament.
Carson, I'm going to go to you here. We'll start off with the women because I know you're coming off a high off of that. Emma Navarro, probably one of the best matches of the tournament so far. What are you looking forward to going into this second round of play when it comes to the women, and then we'll go to the men?
Mm-hmm. I think Bruno mentioned that Osaka Muhova is probably the standout match on the women's side today. Seems like that should be a very high quality match. A couple others that I'm looking forward to. One that's on one of the backcourts is Diana Schneider and Ayla Tomljanovic. Two players that are, well, Tomljanovic has been around for a while and starting to get some wins and rise back up in the rankings after dealing with a long list of injuries over the last couple of years. Diana Schneider, she's very young, still really just came onto the scene last year. So that one's going to be interesting to watch. Another one on the women's side I'm looking forward to is Jess Pegula and Elise Mertens, flying the American flag a little bit. This one has an interesting head-to-head. I looked this up before we jumped on here. Elise Mertens actually leads the head-to-head 3-0 against her. They've only played once in the last 3 years, so it's not a ton of recent data on how that matchup could go, but I think that one will be very interesting. It's been a problematic matchup in the past, so hopefully Jess can turn that around. On the men's side, I don't know. It's kind of like there's not like a long list of highly ranked matchups. The one that has like the highest value, I think, as far as where the two players are ranked is Jacob Mensuk and Casper Ruud. Ruud played a very long 5-setter to open up this tournament. So it'll be interesting just to see where his fitness is at. It's supposed to be a quite humid day in Melbourne, so that can obviously lead to some fitness issues with cramping, as we've seen in the last couple of days. Mensik, he's young, doing very well, but still looking to take that big step in one of the majors. He's had like great tournaments in Masters 1000s where he's been able to get deep in tournaments, but hasn't really made a run in the Grand Slam yet. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get a win here and start to steamroll his way into a few more.
Absolutely. Guys and gal, what are we looking forward to as we kind of go into get ready for round 3? Is there any, matchups that you feel like are that need to happen as we go into the third round of tournament? Like what's a match that you would like to see? What two players do you want to see match up going into the next round?
Right, so realistically, as in a potential round 3 matchup, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, let me just scroll through the draw quickly.
I just have the men's draw pulled up. A third round match that could be interesting and could be Fonseca. We just mentioned him against Francis Tiafoe.
Oh.
I think that one would be really interesting to see. Fonseca obviously is on a bit of a tear here in the past few weeks. Tiafoe is really interesting. He was struggling with some fitness and health at the end of his 5-set match to open up this tournament, but he lives for these big matches on the show courts, so he always turns it up to another level.
Yeah, another one that could be quite fun to watch. Well, if Mahach gets through Opelka, let's see how Opelka's doing. Would be Mahach Djokovic. That would be quite a fun matchup, I think, in round 3. And I think it could be a potential banana skin for Djokovic against Mahach.
I think for me on the men's side here, I'm looking at Musetti, or ranked number 16, if he gets through against Ben Shelton, number 21. I think those two would be a nice little matchup there. Ben Shelton trying to continue, and I still think, to me, if there's any, I know obviously there's Taylor Fritz, as well as you mentioned Carson Francis Tiafoe as well. I really think that Ben Shelton, to me, is going to be the one that breaks the winless streak of a Grand Slam. I'm not saying it's going to happen here at this moment in time, but I really do like Ben Shelton's potential in winning one in the future. Rachel, we'll start on the men's side since we've just been going around that. What would be a third round matchup that you would be looking forward to?
Just putting up the draw here. Give me a second.
Yeah. I mean, like that. Raducanu could play Iga. That would be a nice little matchup for the women.
Looking at the draw, we could have a Sebastian Korda, Jack Draper, or Kokkinakis, which would be. I feel like Draper Korda would be very interesting to watch. Actually, they have not a similar game, but they're quite. I don't know how to describe them. It would just be a clash of heads, I think. Also, I think if Jacob Fernley wins against his opponent tomorrow, he could play Zverev, which would be a very interesting game for him. If he pulls that through, that would be the biggest win of his career, which would be a very great day for British tennis.
I think that'd be a good match as well.
It would be a very nice match.
I think he could push Zverev. I'm not going to say he's going to beat him, but I think he could cause some problems with Zverev.
Absolutely, and especially if he catches Zverev on an off day, which is growingly more common, I think, these days.
Yeah, it definitely is when it comes to Zverev, and you just get into his head in like in an off game, and Fernley can figure out a way to beat him. I mean, and we'll see if those two match up going into the third round. But yeah, this men's section here looks to add up into a good round 3. How about on the women's side for you? What would you guys like to like to see in round 3 coming up?
There's a few interesting ones that could happen in round 3. One that just caught my eye would be Elena Rybakina and Diane Yastremska. Those two just hit the ball very, 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 very hard. And it's sometimes just fun to see a match where everyone's just absolutely trying to rip the cover off of the ball every match. Right down from there could be Madison Keys and Danielle Collins, which I think that would be a lot of fun. They're both very, very good. And then obviously in chat was brought up earlier, Iga Swiatek against either Emma Raducanu or Amanda Anisimova. Like either of those, I think could be very fun matchups to watch.
Yeah, Bruno.
Yeah, so it's someone that I like to look out for because she actually trains on the court next to me most of the time, so I get to see her quite a bit, is Olga Danilovic, and she's finally sort of got her head screwed on properly. She's got the perfect physique for tennis. She's tall, she's athletic, good serve, lefty, and if she gets through Samsonova, which is a big if, could get Jess Pegula in the third round. I'd be keen to see sort of how far Danilovic has come to take on those kinds of players. I'd like to see her mentality as well, coming into a big match, because that's something that's been a massive issue for her. But I think if she can sort that out, if she can sort of make that little click in her head, she's a player to look out for.
Rachel?
We've got Haddad Meyer, Erika Andreeva, Kurdimentova, Katie Bolter. So I think any of those four. Bolter, Haddad Meyer will be a good match, I think. Similarly, we've got a possibility of Emma Navarro against Ons Jabeur, which will also be very interesting.
I think I'm looking forward to hear to see if Madison Keys can continue her strong run this to start the year. And, Danielle Collins, who said she was going to retire, coming back to play the Australian Open and see if, of course, she not too long ago was in an Australian Open final against and lost to Ash Barty. So her and Madison Keys matchup to me would be a nice little thing. And then I'm also looking at Paula Badosa against Kotsik as well. So there's a lot of good things going into what would be a round 3 here, and very excited about this. Carson, real quick for you. I know you predicted Emma Navarro to be in the final. Got a little close the other day. How are you feeling today about it?
Well, a good night's sleep always helps. So, no, that was an incredible match. Both of them played very, very well. I think it's the match of the tournament so far. Plenty of tennis yet to be played. It was a lot of fun, though. So just seeing both of them hit the ball, and honestly, Peyton Stearns should have won it. She had opportunities at the end to serve it out, and just got broken. Looked like she was dealing with some cramping in her arm potentially towards the end of it, which obviously is not what you want as a tennis player when you're trying to hit the ball. But yeah, that was a great match. So feeling better about that prediction. I mean, one win down, but plenty can go wrong still. So
your prediction so far is working out. What are some some bad predictions that have gone out there so far that you guys have seen when it comes to the tournament?
Bad predictions. What, by people we know or?
Sure.
media?
Yeah.
That's a good question. That's sort of caught me off guard.
John had Steph to win the 2022 U.S. Open.
He had who did he have to win?
It says Steph.
As in Tsitsipas? No. Yes.
That's a bad prediction.
Wow. Okay, that's a bad prediction. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. No. Bad prediction.
Haven't been a ton of big upsets yet.
No.
Like Tsitsipas lost, but
yeah, it's not a huge surprise, is it?
No, that wasn't a huge surprise. And Maria Sakkari lost on the women's side. That's not a surprise at all.
Rublev is more of a surprise, though.
In the second set, but yeah, I mean, I feel like most people's predictions are probably still alive at this point.
Yeah, there hasn't been anything ridiculous, has there? No. As you say, Rublev, it's a surprise because he's the seed. Tsitsipas, it's a surprise because he's the seed. But I don't think you're massively surprised to see Fonseca or Mickelson winning those matches.
And definitely Tsitsipas is not just... He hasn't been the same in a while, I feel like. He really just... he went out early in the U.S. Open as well, and he just hasn't been the same. I think he's in love, with Paula Badosa. If you see them on social media all the time. Let me look into. Let's see what else we got here before we start wrapping up the show. You look into a match like Mukova versus Osaka, and obviously it's going to be raining today. Why do you think these two, women who are very good, and probably one of the matches of the night don't have a roof over their head in one of the more prominent courts?
Yeah, I've looked at the schedule of play, and I've sort of tried to figure out who could drop out of the three main courts that have got a roof. So obviously they've gone for 2 men and 2 women matches in every one of those courts. So we'd have to take out a women's match to put in Osaka and Mukova. So you've got Sabalenka, obviously, understandable. Coco Gauff, understandable. Badosa is playing against Gibson, local wildcard. Yeah, might get that one. Tomljanovic, again, the local wildcard. So you could drag out Mertens against Pegula or Siegmund against Zheng. Question there is, Zheng, obviously, it's the sort of Asian Grand Slam, but Osaka is also Asian. So who wins that battle? I'd say potentially you'd have to remove one of those 2 matches for Osaka Mukova to get onto Margaret Court or John Cain Arena. I don't know what you guys think in terms of if it should be above either of those 2 matches.
I don't know, because even though Osaka is not ranked here, she is a draw to the crowd here. Mukova is definitely one of the up-and-coming players here. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to see which one they would take out here. I don't know. Like Carson, Rachel, which match would you take out to put one of these in one of the main courts?
I mean, it's tough to just take one out. There's also just the reality. I think Australians did very, very well in the first round of the draw, and it is the Australian Open. They're going to prioritize putting Australian players on the big courts and getting them publicity if they can. And we have the exact same issue sometimes here in the US with the US Open. And I mean, sometimes you'll put American players on the 2 short courts, even though they're not as highly ranked. So, I mean, that's just the reality. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's tough. You have to thread this hole in between. You do want great matchups on the show courts. Also, it helps a lot to get publicity for young players, and not just giving publicity to the players before the tournament as well. I mean, if you were going to take one off, it's probably Mertens Pegula. I think that's the one you probably would, just because all of the other matches, it's either your two-time defending champion, Coco Gauff is up there. You've got a few matches with Australians in them, and then, I mean, it comes down to essentially Pegula's match or Zhang's match. And I mean, Zhang made the finals last year. She's in the Asian Pacific region, so I mean, it's tough, but that's the thing here. Like round 2, round 3 of slams, like you're not quite at the point where everything is on the show courts. So, I mean, someone's got to play outside still.
And some fans are going to get lucky. Whoever is in, the show court arena is going to get a good matchup here between two really good players. Rachel, what about you? Is there any match you would switch out here to put Muchkova and Osaka in one of the main courts?
I mean, it's tricky because obviously you can't say that I'm taking you out because you get a bigger audience or whatever, because I mean there might be a complete upset, or it's I think it's too tricky to decide. So I think whatever the organizer's decision was, or was not, it was probably this discussion over and over again. I can imagine. I don't think I'd take any matches out.
So you'd leave Osaka off the 3 main courts, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, as you say, it's a tough one because whatever you do, you're obviously going to get criticised, and we all love to criticise the scheduling, don't we? Why is he on this call? Why is he playing during the day? Why is he playing night? Why is she doing this?
It's a no-win situation.
It's a no-win, yeah. I think it should be on one of the main courts because it's just a huge game, and it's Osaka, and again, it's the Asia Pacific region. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be the one making the decision of who I take off. I have to say, even though I think our producer wouldn't agree with it, I think Mertens Pegula as well could be the one that you get rid of.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually would take any off, but I think like Pegula Mertens, it's probably the one you would. I mean, I don't quite know who else it would be. This is why I'm not making the schedule, and I'm okay with that.
That's why we're just watching. Watching for the fun of it. And speaking about fun, we don't get to see as much the players having as much fun on the court during the these main draw games, but when the matches are over and you get some good post game interviews here. Alcaraz had a good one the other day, and they're talking about the golf swings of him and Rafa and Jannik Sinner and comparing the 3 and ranking the 3. You have Sabalenka as well on the court and doing a dance and TikToking with all the fans in the arena. What are some maybe fun exchanges that have happened in the past when it comes to, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of them. One that I remember is Rafa Nadal in a press conference, and then somebody was sleeping while he was getting ready to answer some questions there. So what are like some fun ones that you guys may think of? Could be the same one too.
One that I always remember is, I think Daniil Medvedev is one of the funniest people on the planet. And I think the ATP would be better if they just put a microphone in front of his mouth and let him talk as long as he wanted. I remember his interview in New York. I believe it was 2023. It was his second round match, and some guy had been heckling him the entire night. And then he goes on this rant afterwards talking about how his girlfriend is probably sick of him because he goes home and just yells "vamo, vamo, vamo" all of the time. That was a classic for me.
Yeah, Medvedev is definitely a good one. You have it, him in 2019 at the U.S. Open as well. Anytime, I guess the fans are against him, whether he's playing Rafa or one of the big 3, and the crowd is just not on his side. You get a different Daniil Medvedev, and he just shows off to the crowd. It's always fun to see him go out there. What about Bruno? What about for you?
I think an all-time classic, even though it's not really him saying anything, was Nadal cramping in the press room. And I also really enjoyed. There was one year Kyrgios. Kyrgios, love him or hate him. I can't say I love him, but I think he did bring a lot of attention. And we're all watching his games or watching, looking at his Twitter, seeing what he says. There was that one year at Wimbledon. I can't remember which one it was exactly, but his post-match press conference was so good. Just the way he engages with the engages. That might be a bit of a euphemism, but the way he interacts with the press, I've always found quite interesting. And I didn't agree with a lot of the stuff that he said, and I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he says over the years. But I think he's brought a lot of attention to tennis, and he has been fun at times. So I think I'll go for Kyrgios for the one time in my life. I think I'll vote for Kyrgios.
Yeah, you talk about those the bad boys, Kyrgios, Daniil Medvedev, always have that kind of personality that they bring out during their presses. How about you, Rachel?
I mean, the one that leaped to mind was Kyrgios as well. And I think the Wimbledon one, he was asked about a pub or something. He's a complete jokester. I love him personally. And the other one that leaps to mind is Ben Shelton. And there was one press conference, it must have been at the US Open, and his dad called him halfway through it. And he answered and just started talking to his dad halfway through a press conference.
Before we wrap up this show, because we got about, I want to say, 8 minutes before the matches begin here. One match from the men's side, one match from the women's side that you think we could possibly see an upset out of.
Is that for today specifically, or
for today specifically?
Okay.
Right, I'm going to go for. Let's take some risks here.
And we may end up in bad predictions after all. Anyway.
Yeah, this one's probably more with my heart than with my head. Even though I like Tommy Paul, but I'm going to go with Nishikori to upset Tommy Paul.
And how about on the women's side?
On the women's side, yeah, come on, let's continue with the same theme and say Danilovic against Samsonova.
All right, Rachel, how about you? For you,
I am gonna go with. It's a tough one. I'm gonna have to agree with Nishikori upsetting Tommy Paul, I think. And then for the women, I'm gonna go for Harriet Dart with the upset over Donna Vekic. Hopefully, maybe.
Carson?
Main question was asking in chat, is Mensik beating Ruud an upset? That's a good question. I think probably still an upset at this point. If I'm going with upsets on the women's side, I think I'd take Tomljanovic over Schneider. She's the 12 seed. And then the men's side, maybe Alexander Vukic over Seb Korda. I think those would be my upset picks.
That's one that I was thinking about as well, over Korda. If I'm going to go Osaka over Muchkova, I'd like to see, Osaka get back, into the rankings here. And I think she's a little more focused than she has been in the past. But since you picked already, Vucic over Korda, I'm going to make this full circle. Go back to the beginning of the show and go Habib over Umber. That'll be my bold prediction for tonight.
It's a good pick. Habib looked well, and Humbert had a bit of a rough match. In the first set, he got through, obviously, but maybe not at the level that he had been playing earlier.
Could happen. Popular pick as well. I think everybody will be rooting for him.
Gotta be, especially after our interview with Ryan. Have to see if Habib can pull this off. This was a fun show to do with you all. Carson, Bruno, Rachel. We'll go down in order. Just promote your social media, what you got coming up, and we'll go around the room there. Go ahead, Carson.
Instagram, Twitter, Threads, basically everything. Carson Nix 01. Yeah, just like talking tennis, primarily on Threads and Twitter, X, whichever one you want to call it, and then Instagram, just a little more personal stuff. So.
Yeah, Bruno.
Yeah, I'm not actually very active on Twitter, so I wouldn't recommend anybody following me. That was, I sort of buried that a while ago. And as for what's in the pipeline, well, I saw some comments over here on the right-hand side. I will be on La Liga TV this weekend. So, yeah, switching over to football for the weekend. But, I prefer tennis to football, but it is what it is.
Well, we can catch you here on Talking Tennis. That's the most important thing.
That's right. Whenever John, gets that contract across, I'll sign it and I'll come back on.
Rachel, how about you?
My Twitter is RachJJourno, and my Instagram is _rjames3. I also have a website where I post feature articles, match reports, stuff like that. So yeah, feel free to check that out.
Absolutely, yeah. Make sure you check that out. You can follow me at AntRivera86. I hope you all enjoyed the show, and I hope you all get to enjoy day 4 of the Australian Open. But for this panel, thank you so much for joining in, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care, everyone.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.
Ready? Play.
With Team Gasquet, potentially, Rafa, and we don't know how many more years Novak will be on tour. Is there a player that you really want to play before they finish?
Yeah, sure. Novak Djokovic.
You want to play? Or is there a player that you really want to play before they finish?
Yeah, sure. Novak Djokovic.
Before they finish?
Yeah, sure. Novak Djokovic. Yeah, sure. Novak Djokovic.
You want to play?